going to see pictures tonight, that's why we need some light. We was on Sesshin recently on the Jersey Shore with Roshi Kennedy, and a number of you were there. So you know that we were at the ocean, and I gave my talk, my Dharma talk, teisho, on the ocean, pointing out the symbolism of the ocean, which it can be a symbol of the turbulence, storms in our own heart, and making the point that the very emotions, the very stuff, the very being that we have, that we battle with, is actually the stuff that eventually becomes, that still already is, the stuff. I mean, what life is. So it's just a matter of harmonizing, rearranging it, and not repressing it or denying it, but being present to it, being present to the reality of our life and having it gratefully become the stuff of our life. And the same symbolism, even just in the previous week in the Roman Catholic liturgy, we had the calming of the sea, of the Sea of Galilee in this case, by Jesus. And the disciples were all upset we're perishing, and Jesus says, be still. Here's what he says, be still. That's what we're doing here, be calm. And it can be realigned. The emotions can work together then and be the very stuff of our enlightenment. This is, if you want further proof of that, I pointed out in my homily last Sunday, go to the multiplex and see the new movie Inside Out, in which you see the emotions color-coded and personified, inside, an 11-year-old's head and others. And you learn to see how it was the subject of my homily last Sunday, how the emotions can work together. For growth, in this particular film, sadness and joy can work together. So it's a matter of acquiring wisdom in how that is, on how that is effective and becomes real. I'd like to develop this point, of how the very stuff of our life is where it is. We don't have to go anywhere else for it, by referring to the ox herding pictures. Now, most of you know that the ox herding pictures are a medieval Japanese presentation in a series of 10 pictures. It's the subject of Roshi Kennedy's second book, The 10 Gifts to Christians, of the quest for our true nature, under the imagery of the herdsman who was looking for his lost ox. Reminds me a little bit of Jesus looking for the lost sheep. In this case, the herdsman represents our conventional self, our ordinary, at the beginning, represents our ordinary awareness, and we are looking for our true self, which is symbolized by the lost ox, the lost ox. And so we go through the series where we're looking for it. We start out on the journey, we're looking for it, we catch a little sight of it, and then we catch it, and then we wrestle with it, and then we ride it. So all of those things are symbols for our, like Plato was talking about, getting the horses of our chariot, of our passions, our anger and our sensuality working together. So very much the same imagery of this wild energy, in other words, which is our true nature. It's not some, heavenly thing. It's just the wild energy, and that is our true nature. As we discover it and as we deal with it. So you think that once you get your right, so you're writing it home. That's the sixth picture. But that's not the end of it. It's only the sixth picture. And Roshi Kennedy entitles that chapter "The Incarnation," which is a good way of seeing it. We're fully incarnate here. We're writing our passions, our self. Different dimensions of ourselves, and we seem to be, well situated. But that's not the end of the story, because, it's still duality for one thing, and we haven't gotten to the fullness of wisdom. So I'd like to just, look at the rest of the pictures, in that perspective, of what we're talking about. Now, in the seventh picture, the ox disappears, and you just have the herdsman remaining. So what's going on with that? Here the poor guy goes on this big journey, goes through all these stages and all this sweat and all this practice, and in the end, he's just he again. But obviously it's not the same as before. What's going on with that? Well, there's a poem here by a Sufi mystic, which helps illustrate what has happened. So it says, for 30 years, God was my mirror, looking for the ox, the absolute of my true nature. And now I'm my own mirror. Why? Because what I was, I no longer am. He's not the same person looking for the absolute. For I and God, separate, are a denial of God's unity. The duality I was just speaking of. So since I no longer am the way he was in the beginning, God is his own mirror. He speaks with my tongue and has vanished. That's the important part. He speaks, the absolute, whatever, speaks with my tongue, me just as I am, now, awakened. He speaks with my tongue and has vanished. So the ox has vanished. The symbol of the absolute and true nature. And that's just me. It reminds me a little of Dogen's famous phrase in the beginning, there's mountains, me, everything else. Then when you start becoming enlightened, when you're wrestling with your true nature, wow, everything is transformed, transfigured. But then, in the end, as Dogen says, there's just mountains again. But it's not quite the same as before. But that's all there is. So he's just the herdsman. St. Teresa of Avila says something very similar to St. Teresa of Jesus. She says, Christ, true nature, has no tongue but mine, no hands but mine, no feet but mine, or yours, anyone else's here. So it's just the herdsman left. It's just you. Just you. And Roshi calls that the gift of emptiness, realizing the emptiness of everything, and it's just you. So that's very subtle. Between the sky and the earth, he has become his own master. So he's fully integrated here. Or so it would seem, because that's only the seventh picture. And there's more. There's always more. Going higher and beyond. What you think is the ultimate resolution. Anyway, I call this, that building on what Roshi calls the incarnation, I call the seventh picture resurrection. Because there the fullness of divinity is included in the humanity. Right? They call it the resurrected Christ, call it the true Buddha body, or whatever you want, maybe the Sambhogakaya, if you want to use a name. So this is where, which you maybe call it, if you want to call it anything, it's just empty. So the eighth picture is the complete disappearance of the ox and the herdsman as separate. So in the seventh picture, the ox disappears, and in the eighth picture, they both disappear. So what does that feel like? Well, it's pictured as just a circle. Often it's pictured as the white circle, what Bernie Glassman calls his book the infinite circle, and in Zen lore, the circle is often a symbol of reality. In fact, to be more specific, a little more esoteric, if it's a white circle like this one, it's a symbol of the relative, of the whole world. It's not just a symbol of the absolute, which would often be a black circle. So anyway, point being that this is everything here, and there's no distinction anymore. There's no duality anymore. The herdsman and the ox can't even distinguish. They're not even there. What does that feel like? Well, I think when I first got a sense of this, or a first inkling of this, what it felt like to me was a tilt-a-whirl in an amusement park. You know what they are? Remember what they were like? You're whirling around, and sometimes you go really fast, and you feel like your head is pushed back, and you get the kind of, wow, it's dizzy. You've got this centrifugal force, and you kind of disappear. And so does everything else. It's kind of like you're in that space, and you're kind of spaced out, dizzy for a second. Because you disappear, and so does everything else. There's actually a phrase which I think fits well with this. This number 8 is from a Buddhist practitioner who says, "The world, formless and boundless," just like that infinite circle, huh? Formless and boundless, nothing, not self, not even Buddha. No self and no Buddha. So they're both gone. No self, no herdsman, and no Buddha, no ox. So vast and boundless. What could be better than that? Well, that's only the 8th picture. So, and in a sense, I mean, this is my favorite picture, but the 9th picture is this one, right on the cover, which is, that's just a tree. Or, if you like, just the mountain of Dogen again. It's just the tree in the garden. It's just the dust on the road. It's just flower on the roadway. That's all there is. It's just it again. And there's no you, no separate you. It's like the Buddha said to me, it was enlightened. I and the great, the whole universe, all beings are simultaneously found the way, the great earth and all the beings. So it's just the great earth now. No self. And I'd also call it, Roshi calls it no self, which is obviously true, but I would also call it no God. Because there's just it here. Now there's a very good koan which illustrates this, especially in relation to the one we just heard, the 8th picture, where he said, boundless, the world is boundless, there's no self, no Buddha. Well, Hakuin, the great 17th century, this is a koan about him. He went to his master, Shoshujo backwards, or alternate. And the story is, this is in the Zen calendar for those of you who have it, a few days ago. He went to his master and he said the same thing that you just heard, basically. The world is so vast and wide, there's not a single spot you can hold on to. You know, like he said, nothing. But his master took hold of his nose and twisted it. And he says, there's a spot I can hold on to. So he saw that he had to be pulled back down from all this vast and wide, right back just to what is, right here and now, in the tree, whatever, in the nose. The nose on his own face. Feel it. Something you can hold on to. It's just what's there. So there's no God. This is what I really like about the picture. I mean, this is what we see if you look around. We lose ourselves, hopefully, but there's no God either. Not as some kind of separate thing. I really like it when people say, what do you mean, God? Where? Show me. Show me where. There's no God. Where? Show me. It's like some people, opening up, to do an operation. Where's the soul? I don't see any soul in here. It's the same kind of nonsense. Well, of course not. It's it. It's not some separate thing. God is so quiet and hidden and patient. God can't make himself or herself known without ceasing to be God. It's just here and now. It's just this right here. Just a few days ago, I saw online this picture of on somebody's lawn of a picture of Jesus carrying the cross, and it said, "It's been 2,000 years. He's not coming back. Get over it." And I looked at the grass that it was placed on, and I said, well, there he is. What do you mean he's not coming back? He's back. He's right there. Just the tree, the grass, and the flower, and the mountain. Right there. Wake up! What are you waiting for? It's there. It's here. Right there. I love quoting the poem from John Donne, which I think I've used before, which expresses this very well. Who knew 17th century England, huh? I neglect God and his angels, he says. You know, God and his angels. For the noise of a fly, for the rattling of a coach, for the whining of a door. Well, exactly, because that's exactly where God is. Don't look anywhere else. Or a very simple quote from Thornton Wilder, of all people. Everybody's a Buddha, after all. He says, this is in the calendar as well. It's a great thing, you should get one. Why ask why and whither? And just be content with the ice cream on your plate. Because that's where it is. That's what it is. Everything that is right there. Go wash your bowl, as Joshua said. You've had breakfast. No other teaching than that. So, that's only the 9th picture. All right. The 10th picture is what it all leads to. By the way, I call the 8th picture the ascension, where humanity disappears and God disappears. It's all one. And then I call the coming back to just what is right here and now. That's Pentecost. The Spirit's coming right back down to where we are. And that leads to the 10th picture, which is almost unique, in Buddhist lore. We just simply have the person, the enlightened man, coming back with open heart and open arms into the marketplace. That's what it looks like in the end. When you disappear, you're fully there. You're fully who you are. Without any distinction between you and somebody else. That's why your arms and hands are open in compassion and union. Not distinguished from the Buddha. That's why you're universally open. That's why we're here in the Church of St. Francis of Assisi, because he was maybe the greatest Buddha of the Western world. Just very simply here and now with the birds and the trees and the flowers and the lepers and everybody who was he, who was God, who was Christ. So maybe we can wake up to that. And that is the last picture. No last word, but still, it's the last picture. Any